Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day or evening wherever you are. Today's story is an update story to the original that was posted a couple of weeks ago. We now have a third update on the Baldy and Jane story. Let's now get into our third update to find out what has happened. Hi champions, I'm back. Thank you to all who contacted me. I've been silent because I needed time to reflect and I finally got it. Thank you very much. It's been some very rough days. For those who want to know, I did meet Jane. No, I didn't answer her letter. It was because of a dumb mistake I made. I'll explain. A few days after my last post, I had an anxiety attack due to the stress I had bottled up, according to my therapist. My life had a 180-degree change and my mind hadn't had time to adjust. It was my first time having this kind of episode. I thought I was having a stroke. I had tachycardia, I was sweating, and panic was clouding my judgment. My coworkers dialed for an emergency and an ambulance came for me. If I hadn't been so scared, I'd have enjoyed the ride. I was so very sure that at any moment I'd croak. The paramedic repeated to me, "Mister, you're having a panic attack. Everything is going to be fine." I tried to focus on his words, but I couldn't. My only thoughts were, I'm going to die. At the hospital, they sedated me and I started to feel better and sleepy. I could answer questions. The doctor asked for my name, my age, and what day it was. I could answer correctly until I passed out. When I woke up, guess who was next to me? Jane. I forgot to take out her name and number from my emergency contact. I was very confused due to the drugs. I smiled at her and said, "Jane?" She was sitting reading a book, and when she heard me, she jumped off her seat and approached me. She had tears in her eyes and told me, "Hello, my love. You really scared us." That's when everything came back to me. I stopped smiling and asked, "What are you doing here?" I tried to sit, but my body felt numb and clumsy. She shushed me and told me, "Take it easy, no sudden movements. I'll get the doctor." She kissed my forehead and left. I wanted to evade the kiss, but also my reflexes were numb. That kiss felt so familiar, but I know it has been more than a year since she kissed me with sincere love. While she was gone, I saw around me. I was in a big room with 6 other beds, 4 of them with patients. They were all separated by curtains to have privacy. I also noticed I wasn't wearing my clothes, but a hospital robe. A few minutes later, she came back with the doctor. I had slept for 26 hours. The doctor explained all about the anxiety attack I suffered. He asked me if I stopped taking any meds, but Jane and I answered almost at the same time. I don't. He doesn't take any meds. I hate how well she knows me. The doctor told me the episode came from heavy stress or sudden change in my life, or both. I glanced at Jane, but she had her eyes. He ordered some days off to reflect and get some therapy. I told him I already had therapy, but the doc said I needed to see a psychiatrist. My therapist was a thanatologist and psychologist, so she couldn't prescribe meds. He told me that I must be hungry and that the next day I'd be discharged, and he left. It was 8 p.m., so Jane had another hour until visiting hours were over, and she didn't look like she wanted to leave. It felt awkward, and that feeling led me to chatter like an idiot. So I asked, "You said you scared us. Who is us?" She smiled. I bet she knew I couldn't resist talking. "Your parents and me. They were here in the morning. Did they leave?" "Yes. They are expecting my call. I'll talk to them tomorrow. You can leave. I want to sleep." "But your dinner, it's almost here." When the doctor mentioned I must be hungry, my stomach grumbled. I hadn't eaten anything for 26 hours. A few minutes later, a veteran nurse came with a tray on a cart. She asked Jane to manipulate the bed so I'd be in a sitting position to eat. I don't know what kind of face I made, but Jane was amused and stared at me while the nurse arranged the tray in front of me on my bed. I'm an ex-glutton guy. She said, "God, I love you so much." I glared at her again and asked her one more time to go home, but the nurse got really mad at me. According to her, Jane sponge bathed me and she even shaved me. I hadn't noticed until she told me. Finally, she asked Jane to feed me because I was still coming off the meds. I told her we were getting divorced, but she said that wasn't her problem and that I should be thanking her since she had been there to help and that I was a very ungrateful person. Then she left. I refused her help and tried to eat, even though my movements were very clumsy. I was making a mess with the soup, and Jane begged me to let her help me. I felt like a spoiled brat making a tantrum. I just said, "Fine," and let her feed me. I had never felt so vulnerable before. She behaved very maternally and affectionately. I could have a close look at her. She wasn't wearing makeup. I saw more lines of expression, and also she had crow's feet. I felt better after I finished eating. She took the tray out of the room. She was in a good mood. I saw a patient in front of me, a man in his 50s, checking Jane out when she went out and came back. I wasn't surprised. She was wearing a coat and jeans, but she was very pretty. I didn't like the feeling of being in debt with her. When she sat down, I said, "Thanks for being here." She looked at me in the eyes and smiled. "Anytime." She tried to comb my hair out of my forehead with her hand, but I could reject her that time. She looked hurt, and I didn't say anything. She tried to grab my hand, but I removed it, and she said, "Can we talk, please?" I remained silent. There are only two reasons for me to at least be cordial with her. The twins. They weren't baptized when they were toddlers, but after my sister-in-law's ex went away, Jane and I supported my sister-in-law and the twins. I love those two little rascals with all my heart. When we babysat them, I told Jane that it would count as parent training for when we had our own. That will never happen. My sister-in-law asked us to be their godparents, and I teared up with emotion. They are the closest thing I have to a daughter and a son. I know Jane loves them too, and I don't want any drama near my godson and goddaughter, and I miss them so much. I haven't seen them since about a week before Discovery Day. Also, I haven't spoken to them because I was avoiding Jane. So I told her, "Okay, let's talk. In the condo, I'll contact you soon." She offered to take me home the next day when I got discharged. I told her no. I would ask my parents to come for me, and I'd see her again in the condo. I wanted to talk to my parents. She noticed I was looking for my clothes. She opened a cabinet next to my bed and gave me my phone. I looked at her suspiciously, and she made her guilty face, again meaning I am sure she snooped on my phone, and she admitted it. We didn't utter a word. That's the language we developed after being married for 11 years. I didn't care if she snooped. I had nothing to hide. I texted my parents, and they called almost immediately. While I was talking to them, the same old nurse told Jane visiting hours were over. She wanted to say goodbye, but I ignored her. She whispered in my ear, "I know you keep your word. I'll wait for you to contact me. I love you." She kissed my hair and left. I do keep my word. My father always told me a man is worth as much as his word. I asked my parents if they knew what happened after I passed out. According to them, one of my coworkers showed up at the hospital to give information about my medical security. That's when the staff saw the emergency contact and they called Jane. My sister-in-law contacted them after the hospital called. When Jane came, she met my coworker and he left. Jane was waiting for the doctor assigned to me when my parents arrived. My dad was very cordial with her and asked what she knew. After a while of waiting, a nurse called out, "Relatives of patient OP." They stood up and the nurse guided them to the doctor. They'd already tested my blood and they told them I was physically healthy and that my anxiety attack stemmed from a psychological aspect. The doctor asked Jane to see me because she was the emergency contact. She promised my parents to call them after seeing me. When she came back, she was surprised my parents were still there waiting. She gave them a ride to their home while she told them she helped the nurses to undress me and put the hospital robe on. They didn't talk about our divorce. My parents thanked her for the ride and agreed to visit in the morning and that she'd switch with them in the afternoon around 1 o'clock. Also, I called my sister-in-law to thank her for calling my parents. Luckily, my godchildren were still up and I could speak to them. They were drawing get-well-soon cards for me. I promised to visit next weekend. The next day was Thursday. I was discharged from the hospital. My parents took me to my new home. A week before my panic attack, I started moving to my new place. I took my personal belongings. Everything else would stay in the condo. I'd rented as fully furnished. Luckily, there are 3 universities nearby. I know there are students who would kill for a place like mine. I've already bought the basic furniture, a refrigerator, a stove, I have to learn to cook my meals from now on. A bed, a table with chairs, and a desk, cleaning tools. I felt thrilled for the first time. I could call that little apartment my own place. I bought a nice warm jacket for Mr. P. I gave it to him, thanked him for his help, and told him I would visit from time to time. I didn't attend my neighbor's dinner. I don't feel like dating yet. I think I need more therapy and to do some more healing. At my new home, I reflected on my goals for my meeting with Jane. I concluded I needed closure to understand her actions, to make her understand there was no possible reconciliation, and to end things amicably. I would divorce her and move on. But I don't want to lose my in-laws, my sweet and incoherent mother-in-law, my stubborn and strong sister-in-law, and her twins who I love. I don't want to miss their birthdays and future achievements. I want to be at least cordial with Jane. At work, my boss gave me 5 days off starting the next week. I didn't want to stay in, so I went to the beach. It really helped me to be away from everything and rest. I realized I do love my wife, but the chubby one, the one who got excited when Pizza Fridays arrived, the one who I married 11 years ago, the one who supported my dreams and hopes, the one who hugged me when life got rough. I don't know what happened to her. Did vanity kill her? Horniness? No idea. But I loved my wife deeply, and the one who betrayed me is not my wife. OP, here are my thoughts on the situation. With the stress you are under, this was bound to happen. The panic attacks you've been experiencing have been caused by knowing your wife has cheated on you. This has created insurmountable pain on you and has caused a lot of stress as well. I'm glad to hear that you're doing better and hope you can continue to recover from them. As far as your wife goes, she needs years of treatment and counseling. Your mind seems made up. I will not judge you if you do not keep your decision to divorce. The thing is, chances of you two reconciling are slim at best. Now, as to your sister-in-law's kids, you and Jane not reconciling and keeping an amicable relationship with her while keeping it good for the kids is going to be a gauntlet to navigate. You need to see Jane and get your closure. I then suggest that you take that promotion. Travel the world. Keep your relationship with your niece and nephew through a screen. Do this until you are more emotionally stable and the divorce is final. Jane may turn out to be the only wayward wife who actually shows unconditional remorse. I wish you the best of luck with your situation, OP. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's story. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care, everyone.